Hello, can you hear me? Hello, hello, testing. All right. Okay, good morning, everybody. Let me see if yeah. All right, I'm nervous. Okay, this is nerve-wracking. So welcome to Connect Asia 2019. Hello, hi. Yeah, I'm just trying to wake you up to make sure that I'm not so nervous. So as Yuelin mentioned, KL is one of the first network that started in Asia, WWCode network that started in Asia after fabulous Bangalore. Are you here, Bangalore? Bangalore actually started earlier than us in July 2013. And then there's New Delhi. New Delhi, are you here? Okay, 2014. And then a couple of months later, we started in September 2014. So it's been about 5 years, right? So that's about all the history I know about WWCode Asia. Those are things that you can read online, but there are some things that you might not read online is that people may not tell you that community building can be really stressful at times. It can be very time-consuming, and sometimes the moment you are done with one event, and then the same day you have to think about the next event, right? And there are also times where when your members count start to grow, and then you start to think about having more activities, more events, more talks, more workshops, more whatever, just because you want to get more time to have a touch points with your members. And you're doing so much of planning, and it's like the venues, the food, the communication, the social media, and so on and so forth, the speakers, the content. And sometimes you just can't help but to think, why are you doing this? Or how have you changed by community personally yourself? So we've been doing this for 5 years now. As we run it as a team, there are 3 things that I want to share today that is most important to me, that I think it helps me to see that community building is really interesting and how it helps me to actually have fun sometimes, only sometimes. So the first thing that I learned very earlier on, thank God for that, it actually liberated me a little bit, that it's okay to give out of self-interest. All right, I'm going to explain a little bit. If you know Adam Grant, he's the organizational psychologist, and he said generally there are 3 types of people, right? There are people who are takers, the people who are matchers and givers. Takers are the people who say, what can you do for me, all right? And matchers will be people who say, if I do this for you, can you do that for me? And then givers are, what can I do for you? And so if there's a scale of 0 to 100 for success, all right, 0 being least successful and 100 being most successful, what do you think? Who do you think is the most successful? Let's just give a very generic definition. Success means you have lots of money, all right? So who gets ahead in life? Who gets ahead in life? Let me give you a hint. The givers is at the least successful. And it's not the matches. So this is a trick question. So the ones who are most successful in life, it's also the givers. Thank God for that, right? It's not those suckers. I mean takers. Takers are normally suckers as well. All right, so that's when Adam Grant talked about 2 types of givers, all right? There's one type of givers who are self-sacrificial. They give at the expense of themselves, at the expense of family or whatever. They just give, and give. And then there's the other type of givers. They are what he called other-ish givers. And he was saying that, really interesting, that a lot of people think that, Sorry, I need to get back on track. Yeah, so a lot of people think that self-interest and concern for others are opposites, that it cannot run in parallel, but it's not true. So in fact, he says that for those of you, it's desirable to keep an eye on advancing our own interests as we benefit others. All right. See, the community building has a lot of layers in it. And if you only stop at event organizing, if you only experience as an event organizer, there's so much of event organizing that you can only do for topics that you have no real interest in. And you're going to burn out very easily if you have no self-interest in it. If at best, you're an excellent event organizer, but you haven't get to the best part of community yet. And the best part is connecting with people. And that's the reason why we're here. All right, so the best way to connect with people is when you are sharing about something that you care about with people that care about the same thing. So if you have no interest in something, if people need to see the excitement in you, all right? People need to see that you're invested personally and emotionally in it. So I'm involved in teaching Python workshop because I want to learn Python. All right, so I don't mind preparing the content because I want to be very clear of what I learned. So if I'm not clear, I can't teach you. And then because I can call myself a teacher, that's when I get opportunities to get scholarships. I get opportunities to go conferences, to speak, because they say, oh, you have experience in teaching, you must be quite good. But I'm not. I'm teaching because I want to learn. So I have my own agenda in here, right? I have agenda, okay? Right, so this is so important to protect yourself from being burning out. So it's also to prevent yourself from getting into the ugly side of community building, which is when you start to crave for recognition, for approval from other people, because you have no other self-interest. And so when you do some stuff, all you want is people to recognize you. And when people don't give you the recognition, you get very bitter. All right, so in fact, I encourage you to also learn how to receive. I assume all of you are givers here, no takers. Yeah. So learn to receive as well. Grab the opportunities, grab all the scholarships that you can have, learn everything you want to learn about something that you're really interested in, then come back to the community and give. And that way you become a better giver. And speaking about receiving though, a lot of us here that I noticed that you tend to say, oh, I'm so lucky that I get to receive this. But know this, luck is when you are prepared when people present you the opportunity. All right, so don't just say that, oh, I'm lucky, but you are actually up for it when people give you the opportunity. So do take some pride in that, all right? So the second thing I learned is the power of nudging. And we kind of stumbled into this power of nudging. So we started Python workshops 2 years ago, and we told, we had a study group, and we told everybody in the study group that at the end of this study group, all of you will be mentors by default. And what comes out of it is every time after the study group is done, we suddenly have a new group of mentors. And up till now, nobody came to us and said, sorry, we don't want to be mentored. Nobody said that. And so Richard Taylor, in his book, Nudge, he said that one of the most powerful nudges is default, like making things simple for people. If you want to change someone's behavior, you make that as a default. If it's so inconvenient, if they don't really hate to be mentored, they will come to you and tell you that, sorry, I don't want to be mentored, but nobody has done that yet, all right? So this is a very good tip. So use that on your family as well. All right, so why is it so important to nudge people? You ask, like, why do we want to do that? So if you grew up in an education system that rank you based on your intelligence, you have very screwed up mindset of what failure and fail and winning is. Winning and losing is failure and success. You have that, and that is me. Okay, that's most Malaysians. That our education system places you as A class if you're really smart, and maybe N class or whatever if you're really not smart. All right. And because of that, what we notice is we tend to gravitate towards doing something that we only are good at. Of course, right? We all want to be winners. Why not, right? All the time we want to be winners. But what that means is it also makes us we will take less risks, that we will not step out of our comfort zone doing something that we might not succeed in. And I need to pull out my notes. And then that means that we restrict ourselves in just the things that we are sure that we will do well in. And this one, Singaporeans, Malaysians, you are very familiar with this. There's a word for it. Can you like say it with me? Kiasuness. Yeah. So for those of you who have no idea what kiasu is, it's a fear of losing out to people, fear of losing. But you know, losing, failure, rejections, these are all really common in life. We go through this all the time. So that's why we're doing this. Nudging makes it easier for people to make decisions that they won't necessarily make on their own. Nudgings gently push people to take risks. All right? So what we hope people could understand is taking risks is a process for you to get better. I remember the first time when I speak in a crowd, I was stuttering like crazy. It was so bad that people in the crowd started to laugh. I was stuttering at every single word like that, okay? But I was 16 then. So it took me a long time to learn how to calm myself down. And right now I don't stutter anymore. Hopefully it doesn't come back. All right, so having to Having to witness people grow and get better in time when they take risks is really rewarding for us as a community. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot of platform out there that allows you to do that, that is so forgiving, that when you screw up, it's like, oh my God, that person sucks, better don't get her back on stage again. There's very few platforms like this, like WWCode, like the community, that would actually tolerate, that would be so forgiving for you to get better. So we hope that we can be one of those in KL. All right, third one. That's the last one, I promise. Organizational depth. This is the most interesting and it's the hardest for us, and we are still learning. So all community builders will definitely need to learn how to organize, but it gets much more interesting when we start to learn that getting organized goes deeper than that. It's beyond event organizing. It's beyond your logistics, communications, and so on, your venues and food. There are deeper things that are unseen, but yet require a great deal of organizing. Things like thinking about the experience you want to curate, right? Think about how do you engage and connect with your members, the culture to build, the strategy to create safe environment. How do you have a safe environment really? How do you make sure that people don't boo other people when you're on stage, when you suck, right? How do you empower your leaders? Sustainability, how do you make sure that the community doesn't die when you go on a holiday, right? What if you just decided to move on? What happens to your community? So these things are much deeper than just organizing events. And last book, I promise. This lady, Zainab Zuveski, she's a professor at UNC Chapel Hill. And in her book, she was talking about why are some movements that started off in a big bang, massive participation, everybody joins it, everybody identifies themselves to it, but yet they don't last long, or they don't have much of an impact. It's like there's not much difference between before and after the movement. Why? So she was questioning that. And now what Zainab is referring to is real impact. And for her, real impact are things like policy change, right? So for example, so she gave a very good example. So if you're for pay for equality pay, if you're just gonna say, oh, I'm gonna put up some hashtags there in the social media, like millions and millions of people join it, like hashtag pay equal, blah, 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 it's not gonna cut it. And she said that, yeah, a lot of people are going to be participating. Yeah, of course, I'm all for pay equality, but having hashtags, throw it at the social media, getting everybody on it is not going to cut it. And what she says is that there's so much more depth into it. It has to be reflective and thoughtful to build a long-lasting community that know how to think together. So she was challenging people that how do you take the amazing energy of the movement? Of course, there's more than just hashtags. There are people, the movement, they do great things. They do organizing, I don't know, there are people who set up like stage, they organize protests and so on as well. There are a lot of logistics to it. There's a lot of, they distribute foods. There's a lot of that as well. And Zainab was talking about these people as well. Like, are these enough? Are organizing just on the first layer of logistics, of communication, is it enough? Is there more than that to it? Is there some depth to it? All right, so in our context, in community, it just means that to create an impactful community, we need to be very intentional of what we are trying to achieve. So besides just sitting together to organize events, we've got to sit together to organize our thoughts. What exactly do you want to achieve? You want to create a safe environment? How? What sort of stuff do you need to do? You strategize, you plan ahead, and then you do it intentionally. And that's what we got from Zainab, or what I got from Zainab on organizational depth. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not to say that all the logistic planning are all for nothing. They have a lot of value in it. And spend the last few minutes to talk about a story, a Malaysian story, that how we get so organized and we are able to change our government last year. All right, so a lot of you know about this story. Maybe know in details. So we had our election last year. Some of you may not be aware. So our polling day was intentionally set in the middle of the week on a Wednesday, thinking that Malaysians will not come back to vote. So because it's so inconvenient, right? You have to like travel all the way, like drive, like if your hometown is in down south or up north. Or people who are overseas. What about people overseas? Are you going to fly all the way back on Tuesday and then on Wednesday vote and then you're going to fly back on Thursday? How about those people? So you're thinking that, yeah, Malaysians won't do that. It's too inconvenient, right? So there are thousands of Malaysians who are overseas because they love our country so much that they just leave the country, right? Yeah. So there are a lot of Malaysians out there, and they have no luxury to come back to vote. And what they do is they opt for postal voting. Postal voting means that the election commission will be sending you ballots, and then you'll be ticking it off, and then choose your government, and then you send it back home. And unlike many countries in Malaysia, you have to make sure that your postal ballot reach on the day itself, election day, by 5 p.m. That's the rule, okay? Because of that, the EC, the Election Commission, will only send the ballot over 1 week before the election, right? So the problem is some people at the far end of the earth only receives it 2 days before. How on earth are they going to be able to post back on time? There's no way they can do that. So the only choice they have is to pass it to a volunteer to make sure that this person or whoever will get to pass it to the official commission in time by 5 p.m., 9th of May. So that's when the amazing race started. Suddenly, somebody's created a Facebook group and then tell everybody, so whoever wants to have their ballot from wherever in the world, we will help to find a way to get back home by 5 p.m. So suddenly, you see people come up with logistics, spreadsheets, and ideas. And the only mission that they have is anybody who has a need from which part of the world, I don't care, I'm going to find you runners. Runners are people who can carry your ballot with you wherever and go to another stop point and then pass it to another runner and then go to another stop point and then pass it to a runner and then pass it. The final baton relay is to pass to the volunteer who could hand it over to the official. And that was the mission. And this girl, I just want to say, share a story. And this girl, she was at Houston, Texas airport at 1 a.m. because one of the volunteers in the Facebook page says that there is a connecting flight from Taipei to KL. Maybe you should just go to EVA flight and find somebody that could help you, find a runner. So she went to the Houston, Texas, she went to the airport at 1 a.m. holding a card. Are you going back to Kuala Lumpur? And then she was finding and looking, and in the end, she found this pilot who is going back to KL, and he carried like all her friends' ballots and hers as well. So there were countless of stories like that, and we want to thank, I just want to dedicate this time because today is the National Day of Malaysia. So we turned 62 this year. So this story actually reminds us that an individual can change a community, and a community can change a nation. All right, so since most of you here may be a community builder for some years now, and you might feel a bit burnt out because it's cyclical week in and week out. But what I want to encourage you is that, do know that your team can create powerful moments and experiences like this. And thank you so much for your effort, and take very good care of yourself. Do have some self-interest. And as for my fellow Malaysians, Selamat Merdeka. Thank you.